Michael is on with us. Michael, thank you for joining us, sir. Appreciate it.
Well, we can talk about GDP if you want to.
What was the argument between you and the boss?
Oh, my 3-year-old really wanted to go see the train, but the issue is the train track's by our house. The train's not always there. And so when I tell him, I'm sorry, buddy, the train's not here, sometimes it goes well, and other times I'm very bad for not having the train appear on the tracks when he wants them to. So
you're the father. You should be able to do something as inconsequential as making the train show up.
I know.
Period.
Man, and when we walk by it, too, when it's not there, it's especially, like, he'll turn his head up and look at me, and that bottom lip will come out, and it's just, I'm the worst.
And he wants the train.
Yeah, he wants to see the train.
Look, mixed reviews over the weekend, but I was watching you guys on Friday on the sports show, and, it's always a lot of conjecture and where things are and how things are going to turn out, but let's take Ole Miss first of all. Your recap, kind of a recap of what happened there, and I think they dropped down 8 positions. So they're now 15 in the AP poll.
Yeah, and so that's kind of the perspective that's needed, right? On one hand, the way it looked is worse than just saying they went to Baton Rouge and lost. A lot of good teams have done that, but they got, straight up blitzed in the second half. They jump out to another early lead, which is something they've done all season, and it just kind of ran into a wall, which was LSU's defense, and couldn't get pressure on Jaden Daniels, couldn't protect Jackson Dart, and got dominated in the second half against LSU. Yeah. So it is just the positive spin is it's just one game. You would have taken 7-1 at this point, going to play a bad Texas A&M team. But on the other hand, you had a 17-3 lead, and then got outscored 45-3. Or 42-3 after that. So a disaster of a second half for Ole Miss, and physically just kind of got beat up on by LSU.
I always wonder when that happens, is it mental and physical from the players' perspective that they've let up a little bit, or is it come from the press box and the sidelines where they've made the adjustments, or maybe it's a combination of both of those?
It feels like Saturday was a combination of a lot of things. Ole Miss, it's not an excuse, it's reality. They are banged up a little bit as well, so you have injuries that were piling up, and things stopped going well offensively. They had a key drop in the second half, an interception in the red zone in the second half. But LSU deserves so much credit. They imposed their will physically on Ole Miss's offensive line in the second half, and because of that, they couldn't move the football, they couldn't sustain drives, they couldn't score. And then on the flip side, LSU, I think on first down, got 5 or more yards on all but 6 first down plays in the game, something like that. So it was a physical imposition of their will on Ole Miss, and you can't do that on the road in front of 90,000 plus people.
Have you seen anything this morning as far as the physical shape of Dart in the aftermath?
He'll continue playing, I'm sure, at this point. They've played 8 games in a row with no off week, and Ole Miss still won't have one until after this game in College Station. They're a beat-up football team. Even the guys that are playing, Cedric Johnson's not 100%. Zach Evans tried to play, couldn't. So that's their third year, not at Ole Miss, but he's a third-year running back in college football. The transfer, he's hurt. A.J. Finley didn't play much. J.J. Pegues on the defensive line is banged up. They've got a lot of problems right now, schematically and also health as well. But luckily, they're playing what is, I think, the worst offense in the SEC West this weekend. So at least they have that waiting for them in College Station.
This has nothing to do with that, but over the weekend I got into a rabbit hole looking on YouTube, going to college football facilities to see all the amenities. And when you talk about recouping after injuries and everything, some of the technology that they have at Alabama, Ole Miss, Mississippi State, and other universities, as far as cryogenics and all of the stuff that they have. It's just absolutely amazing. Not only the luxury, but the technology. And at that level, it's if people haven't seen that, it is incredible. So let's move over to Mississippi State. And when you start looking at that, Did Alabama pull back a little bit, or what do you? I didn't watch the game.
Well, State defensively has been pretty good all year. It's kind of because of who Mike Leach is and the the lore of Mike Leach. Nobody talks about the best unit that they've had in 2.5 years since he's been there, which has been his defense. Zach Arnett's really good, and they were able to really slow down Alabama's running game. State was great against the run in Tuscaloosa. So from that perspective, I thought State defensively just was good in this game. The issue is they could not move the ball whatsoever. Yeah. Will Rogers averaged just over 3 yards per pass attempt. Really just couldn't get anything done. Yeah. And that's kind of been the theme of Mississippi State, Alabama since Leach has taken over, that they finally got a touchdown on the board. So that's something you can take home, I suppose. But that's really what it came down to. Is State had a pretty, I imagine, a miserable week on top of the fact that they ran into somebody that's simply better than them. If
any quarterback in the SEC and probably some of the other divisions too would like to restart this year, it's got to be Will Rogers.
And, a couple of times this year, it looks like he needs to, in my opinion, for whatever it's worth, needs to take more chances vertically. It should have done it in Lexington, and then it's difficult because they didn't protect him particularly well on Saturday night in Tuscaloosa, but they need to be more vertical in their offense if they're going to beat teams, the better teams on their schedule like this. And so often they get bogged down into he throws more passes behind the line of scrimmage by percentage than that travel further than 10 yards down the field. And I know that's part of the air raid and it's short passes and high percentage throws, but at some point, if you're going to be competitive against teams like Alabama, you can't average 3 yards per pass attempt. That's not going to beat anybody, especially not Alabama.
Yeah. Did I see Alabama, what were they, 4th or 5th in the new college coaches poll? Did you see that?
Yeah, so they lost to Tennessee.
Yeah, I know that.
And so you've got an undefeated Tennessee, an undefeated Georgia, an undefeated Michigan, undefeated Ohio State. So in Alabama, despite Saturday night, the State fan out there, isn't this ironic that the most penalized team in college football had one penalty against Mississippi State? Imagine that. It's just.
I'm just wondering when's the last time they were rated 6th in the coaches poll. It's been a long time.
Off the top of my head, I'm not sure, but yeah, that's.
It's been a long time.
It's been a while, and now the LSU game for them looks a lot different than you thought just a couple of weeks ago.
And this is going to be at LSU, in Death Valley.
And that's a vulnerable Alabama team. They are now. They've still got the NFL players all over the field, but this isn't as dominant of an Alabama team as you've seen in recent history. They've got issues for them anyway.
I go back, and we were talking about earlier as far as, Southern, that was a heck of a game. They pulled it out at the last second. Never say die.
And then they're going to be on front and center on Thursday night. They're at home. They're going to be on ESPN2. And Will Hall has dealt with so much when it comes to injuries, especially at the quarterback position. Now he's made the right decision to go with a true freshman in Wilkie, but they are winning games on defense, and they are doing things that just with such a frustrating start to the season. They're winning games on defense and being opportunistic, and now they've got a real opportunity to get a statement win at home on ESPN2 and get back to a bowl game, which I imagine when Will Hall took over, after he took over, getting to a bowl game this quickly is quite an accomplishment. It would be. So they've got a real chance on Thursday to do that.
When we come back, I was going to ask you a couple of questions to just your analysis now, since we're several games into this season and how the transfer portal has played into this. And in many ways, in many of these teams, it's been a big deal. It's meant everything. As far as Ole Miss is concerned, to a large degree also. What's your thoughts on that?
Oh, no doubt. And it's just the new era of college football. If you don't embrace it, it'll harm you. But if you look at Ole Miss, they have a 7-1 start. Their quarterback's a transfer. Their starting running back, who didn't play Saturday, he's a transfer. They've got him all over the defensive side of the ball. Malik Heath, who's been a good receiver for them, a transfer. It's an equalizer for programs like Ole Miss, who don't have the resources like Alabama or Texas A&M or LSU to acquire talent that can be competitive by not having to go head-to-head with the likes of Texas A&M, who are shelling out money like you couldn't believe. And Ole Miss just can't do that.
And the other side of that sword is this. If you have some players that outperform expectation from here on into the end of the season, maybe through the bowl game situation, and they're not feel like they're getting enough playing time where they could step up, here you go. I mean, they could take off. So you got to worry that as far as the other side of the sword. All right. Jackson State. Can we talk about that when you come back?
Yes, we can.
Don't get a call from the kids now, so just stick with me. And if the train shows up, you can't leave. That's what I'm saying. Back with Michael Borkey coming FDIC. Let's talk about Jackson State. And we mentioned this a little bit earlier, Michael. Michael Borkey is with us from Sports Talk. We mentioned it earlier. You can chronicle this stay in Jackson from Coach Prime by saying that one man can make a difference, and you can use this for your TED Talk or for your motivational speak or whatever you want to do. But seeing how one man can come into an environment and shake things up, this is a perfect example. Your thoughts?
Oh, it's incredible what's happened to Jackson State. I mean, when the hire was made, there was a lot of skepticism of, is this just for publicity, or do they think he can actually coach ball? Because his resume when he got hired as a coach was lacking. But at this point, you can't deny the record. It's not like he's got Alabama players playing in the SWAC. He's got SWAC players. Now, he recruits well. He's able to get guys to go to Jackson State that had D1 potential. But there's so many people that have doubted what he's done there. And I think it's kind of foolish. Look at the record. Look at the games that have been played by Jackson State under Coach Prime and what their record is in those games, and you can't deny his success. No. He is coaching good football on top of being still primetime Deion Sanders and everything that comes with that. Absent all of that is winning football. And I think people are ignoring the winning football part because of the Deion Sanders part, and now here's a culmination of College Game Day, the country's premier pregame show or whatever you want to call it, been on the air for 2 decades, and it's how millions of college football fans every Saturday start their day is going to be at Jackson State. Not just because it's Deion, but because Deion is winning on top of being himself. It's remarkable what's happening here.
Most mortal men are not going to have the history that he had as far as football and baseball out there. We understand that. But, I mean, he's maximized that, and he's brought the trifecta with him on things that we don't like to admit are as important, in some cases more important, and that's fundraising, recruiting, and also publicity, beside the winning. He is a master at publicity. I mean, how many other coaches have been on 60 Minutes?
Right.
How many other coaches on Good Morning America?
College football today is so much also about marketing. I mean, in the NIL era, and not just that. I mean, you've got to market your program to people, and he, whether it's intentional or not, it doesn't matter. He appears to be a master at it. I mean, who else has Snoop Dogg coming to their games? Yeah. But Snoop Dogg was at Jackson State on Saturday. The connections,
over 51,000 people there.
Yeah, which is, that is on par with Mississippi State's games this year. This is a significantly larger number, many times over, than Southern Miss. I mean, that's more than Ole Miss has had at a couple of games this year. That's real.
How much longer do you think he'll stick around?
Oh, that's a good question.
Because he actually said that if a Power 5 offered something, because certainly on his coaches, he'd have to take it.
Yeah, I mean, on top of... It's no disrespect to Jackson State, but any coach has... College coaches want to coach in the NFL. FCS coaches want to coach in the FBS. Sun Belt coaches want to coach in the SEC. That's just kind of how things work. I'm curious to see who decides to pull the trigger on an offer of Deion Sanders, because he is his own brand, and some colleges can't understand that or can't accept that and let him be him absent you. Like, take Auburn, for example. They want an Auburn man to be part of the family. Well, I don't know if they're going to want to allow him to just be him.
In other words, you're saying you can shine, but don't outshine the people who are supposed to be shining a little bit brighter.
Exactly. And the thing is,
that's very true, because it's all politics. We know that.
Of course. But if somebody's willing to concede that, again, the record speaks for itself. He's winning football games, and he's recruiting better than everybody else that he's playing against, but he still has FCS resources. He doesn't have Alabama resources recruiting against Alcorn and Valley. No, he's got Jackson State resources recruiting against them, and he's still able to sign players. You're telling me that with SEC on his chest, he won't be able to go into living rooms and market his team and his program? I think in this era, you'd be crazy not to kick the tires on a guy like him, because look at what he's doing, where he's doing it. It's remarkable.
I wonder if he has any, did he patent that I am SWAC on that T-shirt? Because he's going to be selling a lot of those.
Yeah, I think he did.
He's going to make some money on that.
I mean, it's, and I'm so excited for College Game Day to be here because, I mean, as you know, you cover it often. Jackson has not always been in the news for good things lately. No. But it's not exclusively bad, and that's what I tell people that don't live in this area, that when they see the news and hear the news, they think that the second you cross city limits into Jackson, that your tires are going to pop because of the potholes and everything's going to be terrible, and it's not exclusively that way. They have problems, yes, but there are good things happening, and Jackson does have good things to offer.
And now you come from another state. You grew up in another state, so you know that when you first came in, you look at what the perception is and the reality is of the state of Mississippi. But I always say this, though, Michael. You go to places in East Texas, my God, I was looking at some places. You can go to the YouTube and say the places you don't want to live in Colorado. They got some small rural hometowns out there that are dumps.
Yeah,
I mean, in Texas, my God, it looks like MS-13 wouldn't live there.
There's a stigma attached to this state, and it's wrong. I mean, I have lived it myself, and I've chosen to live here and stay here, and I wouldn't trade it for the world. But at least now, 3-4 million people, however many will watch College Game Day, will get to see our state in our capital city in a positive light, when so many people refuse to even try to find the good stuff. They only focus on the bad stuff. And when you do that, you create a perception that is not really reality. And we get a billboard for 3 hours on Saturday morning. It's phenomenal.
How much easier is it for you three guys on the air when all of you lose or all of you win than when one wins and one loses?
Winning's more fun. Losing breeds more passion. People are more fired up. And truthfully, either extreme is easy. It's the in-between stuff that makes our job hard, because nobody's mad and nobody's happy. They're just kind of, whatever. So
you want some direction one way or the other.
Yes, give me some extreme, and we can talk about that all day. But anyway.
Well, always good seeing you. You guys do a great job on television and also on radio, and it's good to have you as part of the family, man.
Of course, always. Thank you, Paul.
Any parting shots here? Anything you want to mention? Anything else?
Check us out at 3. We'll be breaking everything down.
Do you have any other promotions on the web that you want to push?
No, just Sports Talk Mississippi, 3 o'clock.
You don't have a T-shirt or no T-shirts?
No T-shirts, no merch, nothing like that.
Borkey Enterprises. No, you don't want to hawk anything right now. Is that it?
No, I'll just stick with.
I gave you a chance, so
I appreciate that.
All right, my man. Thank you so much.